There's a growing number of South Africans returning home from abroad. This comes as some citizens consider leaving under a refugee program that was introduced by the United States administration of Donald Trump following unfounded claims of a so-called white genocide in the country. Government data shows thousands of people are reclaiming their citizenship status, with around 12,000 checks recorded on an online portal launched in November last year. To unpack what may be driving this trend, we're now joined by the CEO of DNA Employer of a Record, that's Anton van Heerden, as we get into this one. Anton, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It might just be greener where you water it.
Absolutely. That's what our employees say. People who return to South Africa have that same sentiment. So they say that, things are better here for many reasons. Cost of living standards are better. And then all the obvious stuff, family and friends, weather, and so forth. So that's definitely the case.
I mean, I thought that the perception of South Africa's crime levels would have been a huge deterrent. I suppose weighing that up against the situation in other countries may be far worse or far more difficult to deal with.
Absolutely. I think things have changed in Europe significantly, Europe and the UK, over the last couple of years. So they have different safety concerns in terms of the ongoing war. And I would not be surprised if we see a surge in our, South Africans coming home because of those safety concerns.
What happens exactly when one thinks about the professionals who maybe, one, have gotten a chance to work more remotely, meaning that they don't necessarily need to stay in foreign nations and foreign nationals as well? Or is it just a case of broader demographic, profiles emerging now where people realize that their workload and where they got things best was perhaps back home? Or is it just a professional change that might be happening here? What are the most inquiries you're getting?
We see people from all walks of life and all professions returning, but it is more on the professional side. So really, any person who can work remotely can return to South Africa and continue working for their employer in Europe or the UK or the US. So it really depends on the type of job. And as I said previously, the COVID pandemic opened businesses' eyes globally to the fact that they can employ the best people anywhere in the world. People don't have to be at the office. So if your job lends itself to remote working, no matter what type of job that is, then you're the ideal candidate to return home to South Africa and continue working for your employer abroad.
Yeah, very interesting one actually overall there. What happens to the United States, though? What kind of requests and question marks have you seen from all those that might be returning out of the United States? Is that purely based off of those that perhaps left at the end of last year, or is there something else here?
So I think those are two distinctly different groups of people. Some South Africans have left for the US for good reasons, and some are returning. So and unfortunately, I think the people leaving, there's more reports on that than people returning from the US. So we find a lot of people, for the same reasons as in Europe, returning from the US and wanting to continue working for their employers in the US. It is more difficult because of the time zone differences. So people returning to South Africa but continuing working for their US employers, often have to work midday till late evening if their employers are based on the East Coast. So it is a bit more difficult, but we definitely find that.
How many returnees are perhaps citing lower living costs in South Africa than abroad? One finds that the adjustment to that is often one that people take for granted.
Absolutely. So the cost of living in South Africa is significantly lower, which means your standard of living is higher if you continue earning the same euro or dollar-based salary. So, there's a massive difference. So the rand, in real terms, the rand is definitely undervalued, and people coming back earning the same salaries is definitely much, much better off.
Yeah, and I mean, do you see a whole host of people now making the influx? Is this like a reverse drain brain, a brain drain, should I say, then, that we've had in the inverse, whether it be countries like Australia, which have taken on quite a few, the United Kingdom, as you made note of, took on quite a few, the US now being a key part of that too. Do you think that this is about to ramp up, or will it remain pretty much the same over the next coming year or so?
So we saw a 70% increase in people returning to South Africa last year, and that trend is continuing. And with the war in Europe, the Middle East, I would not be surprised if this trend increases. So it is definitely a reverse of the brain drain in terms of people coming back home. They might still be working for their foreign employers, but the fact is they're home, they have skills, and long term, they will probably contribute to our employer base locally as well.